I saw something interesting in the Sfas Emes Ala Torah. It's from one of the Ger Rebbes. He asks like this. He says, the Gemara says that Chanukah only became a Yom Tov the following year. They didn't Chazal right after the Nes. Did not right away say, okay, we're having this is going to be a Yom Tov. It says L'shana Acheres Kavod. Next year, they established it as a Yom Tov. He said, why didn't they do it right away? So he says a few explanations, but one of them is that he says that what happened during the Nes of Chanukah was Rabim Biyad Ma'atim. Now, not only was it Rabim Biyad Ma'atim compared to the Goyim, but even, unfortunately, a lot of Yidden at that time period had gone over to the Goyim side. They were what's called the Misyavnim.
Hellenized.
You know, the Lubavitcher Rebbe explained in the Al HaNissim, the Tefillah Al Nissim, we say Rishoyim Biyad Tzadikim Tmeim Biyad Tahirim. So the Rebbe said usually we don't call someone a goy, we don't give him the term Rasha. Rasha is a term used for a Jew that's not behaving appropriately. Tamei is used for someone who could become Ta'ir and he's Tamei.
Right.
But a guy who was not involved at all has a connection to the halachas of Tumah and Tara. So the Rebbe said over here we were referring to the Misyavlim. Not only we were Rabim Biyad Ma'atim that Hashem delivered the Greek armies in the hands of the few, but even though we didn't have all the Jewish people with us, it was a Shoyim Biyad Tzadikim. Hashem delivered the Shoyim Biyad Tzadikim. That we were also up and against the Misyavlim. Which this explains why we are saying this in Al Nissim, because seemingly if we're saying it, we're trying to bring out how great the Nes was. Mela we say Masartir Gibardim Biyad Chaloshim Rabim Yamatim. That makes sense. That shows how great the miracle was. We were weak, they were strong. We were few, they were many. But how does one is Torah, one's Tamei, one's a Rasha, one's a Tzaddik? How does that bring out that the Nes was a bigger Nes? However, if we explain that we're trying to bring out that we were not only the Goyim were on the other side, but the Rishayim were with them, the Tameim with them, the Jewish people with them. So that brings out the Nes even more. And we always know that Jewish people, the ones who harm us the most, unfortunately, are from our own. So, said this explains the Sfas Emes. After the Nes of Chanukah, the Nes of Chanukah right at the beginning was only a Nes for the minority of the Jewish people. To make a Yom Tov, a holiday, permanent holiday for Klal Yisrael, for the rest of all generations, it's not shaykh to make that for a minority of Klal Yisrael. It has to be a Yom Tov that's connected to all of Klal Yisrael. Purim, all the Jewish people were saved. Yitzias Mitzrayim, all the Jewish people were saved. Chanukah was only the Mi'atim. He said, however, after the Nes happened, during that year, the Hellenists, the Misyavnim, realized, look what happened over here. This was a Yeshua's Hashem. This is something that came from Hashem. So they were Choyzer B'tshuva. They said, why are we with the Greeks? Look what happened to the Yidden. So they slowly came back to the ranks, joined back to the ranks of being part of Klal Yisrael. And at that point, a year later, Chachamim said, now that things have changed, the tables have turned, and now majority of Klal Yisrael is all united. Now we can kivei this is a Yom Tov. But to kivei the Yom Tov just for a Ma'atim, just for a minority of Klal Yisrael, that's not how a Yom Tov is created. You have to have the whole Klal Yisrael.
So why they didn't say Kimu v'kiblu aleim hayudim l'shana haba l'kayem?
It's Purim.
Oh, it's Purim. You're right, yeah.
I actually heard that Purim was the first time that the Jews fully accepted the Torah because they wanted to.
Correct. The Gemara explains, that at the time of Matan Torah, it was frightening. There was a mountain over their head, and the way the Hasidic explanation is, we're not focusing the literal mountain, but the great Ava and the great levels of godliness we were shown in Matan Torah. So of course, who wouldn't want this? Right. So that was sort of like quote unquote being forced.
Yeah.
The times of Purim, there wasn't any great godliness. It was a very dark time. It was a very difficult time, and not only that, the Alter Rebbe writes in Torah that even though the decree of Achashverosh and Haman was not a religious decree, it was against the physical Jewish people, the bodies, they were to be killed. Unlike Hanukkah, which is a decree of religious war. Still in all, if the Jewish people would have converted, they would have been saved. Even though that wasn't, the decree was that the Jewish people should be wiped out, but it was sort of like a way out. If they would have converted, they wouldn't have to, and still Jewish people didn't choose that option. B'chalal, the Lavush already says, the Lavush was a Talmud of the Ramah, and the Martcha Yafa, the Lavush explains that there's a big chiluk between Chanukah and Purim. Purim, there was a gzeira on the guf. Chanukah was a gzeira on the neshama. Purim was all about physically being wiped out. It had nothing to do with mitzvahs. There wasn't any gzeira about us doing mitzvahs. Chanukah had nothing to do with being wiped out. There was no such a gzeira. The decree was, you can't do Shabbos, you can't do Bris Milah. It was mitzvahs was an issue. That led to a war. And there was a physical salvation we won. It was something we won, and we overthrew the Greek rulership. But that was not the point of the war. The point of the war was religious freedom. That we should gain our freedom to be able to keep Yiddishkeit and keep Torah. And when we won the war, so we were physically saved, but ultimately that never was really an issue. We were never physically in danger. The issue was whether we'd be able to remain Jews. If we remain Hellenists and Greeks, we would be fine. The issue is whether we can remain as Jews. So the Nitzachin was a Ruchnius. And that's why he says, Purim, we celebrate with a meal. The main thing about Purim, we have a lot of Hanukkah parties, but there's no chiyuv to make any parties, right?
So that Purim, yeah.
Like I saw someone recently write, there's Jewish traditions and traditions of Jews. Jewish traditions are things that, mitzvahs that we have to keep, different mitzvahs. Traditions of Jews, there are different things that we do as traditions. We have latkes, we have donuts, we have gefilte fish. Sfardim don't have gefilte fish, right?
Yeah, but we eat.
Already they eat. Like the Ashkenazim are having the baba ganoush, the chatzilim, the
Moroccan salmon.
Right.
Spicy.
Today it's all a melting pot.
Right.
So Lamaisa,
We just love food.
the Purim, there's a chiyuv having a suda. The whole focus is on the suda. Mishleach manas, according to the basic explanation of why we give Mishleach manas, is to make sure everyone has food on Purim. So each exchange food packages, right? Yeah. It's not all about the nash that we exchange, but really giving something that people could eat, food, and having the meal and a very festive meal, because we're celebrating the physical. Hanukkah, we light candles. The most spiritual thing that we have in this world is candles. Light is the most spiritual thing, and that's what we even see even by Lahavdol Goyim. When it comes to something they feel spiritual, they light a candle. Candles represents fire, represents the most spiritual thing we have.
Look at the light they have outside the Goyim now for their holiday.
So fire is considered the main focus of Hanukkah is the Ruchnius. And an interesting thing, we know it was a major war. That was most of it. What went on was a war, and winning the war was an unbelievable battle. Lamaisa, the Gemara, when the Gemara asks, "My Hanukkah, what is Hanukkah?" The Gemara gives a very strange answer. The Gemara says, after we won over the battle with the Greeks, the Yevanim had entered into the Heichol and pured all defiled all the oil. And when we came into we didn't find any oil, and we burnt, and the menorah burnt for 8 days. So the Gemara ignores the Bryce, and the Gemara totally ignores anything at all to do with the victory, and we're celebrating the lighting of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. On the other hand, the Al HaNisim Tefillah that we say in davening focuses basically entirely on the victory. So the Rebbe one time pointed out that they're both very important things: the winning of the victory and the lighting and the menorah. if you mention one next to the other one pales. We don't want one to pale in light of the other. See, each one has its own tefillah and its own place where we give it its mention. In Alanissim, we focus on the Nitzach and Hamacham, the victory. In the Haneir Salalu, we focus on the Ness of the Menorah. The Gemara, when the Gemara mentioned Mai Chanukah, what is Chanukah? Because ultimately there was a war and there was a victory and it was a great miracle, but that wasn't the whole point of the war. The whole point of the war was a spiritual victory. So the fact that we were able to come back and light the menorah the way we always did, and the proper way we're supposed to, we're not in a b'di'evidik manner, but in the mahadra, in the way we were supposed to do it, that was really the ultimate, bringing everything back to the way it was before. And that was really my Chanukah. But of course we have to discuss the Nitzach and Hamachama, and that's why we have the different piyutim which mention the Nitzach and as an inyan for itself.
Plus, without the physical Nitzach, we wouldn't have the ability to light spiritually regardless.
Correct. So you...
They're the twin.
The Gashmi brought to the Ruchni.
But I have a question. If they want to destroy the goof, one is the goof and the neshama. If they destroy the goof, the neshama cannot do anything.
Correct.
Neshama need the goof.
You're right.
You're
right. You know, in World War II was a similar thing to like Haman. It was nothing to do with mitzvahs. It was right away wiping out the Jewish people.
Oh.
The war that happened with the things that happened in times of Hanukkah had to do with mitzvahs. And I saw another part in the Sfas Emes, and then we have to go on to learn the halachas. But it says in the Megillah Antiochus, says there were the three mitzvahs they started off making clear was on Shabbos, Mila, and Rosh Chodesh. And so he says, what are these three mitzvahs specifically? He says, what was the Yevanim out to do? The Yevanim were out to do, like Chazal tell us, we say in the Tefillah al Anissim, lahashkicham Torah secha, to make us forget the Torah, ulahavira mechuk ritzanecha, and to remove us from keeping your will.
Don't take away the Omach Shemayim.
Right. And lahashkicham Torah secha, to make us forget the Torah. He says these three mitzvahs are here in order to remind us about the entire Torah. Shabbos, Zeicher l'maaseh bereishis. Here is an inyan of zikaron, to remember something. Mila is a ois, he bini benecham. It's a ois and the zeicher and the guf of the person to always know that we're connected to Hashem. Rosh Chodesh, the Torah calls it the term Yom Zikaron, the day of remembrance. All these three mitzvahs have to do with remembering Torah, remembering mitzvahs, remembering our connection to Hashem. The Yevanim wanted lahashkichem Torah secha. So first thing we have to do is take care of these three mitzvahs. And here is a zeicher, a zikaron. And if you want to make shikha, to make the Jews forget, if we take away these three, that's the first step.
Yep.
Anyways, the ikar is that we could take on Zois Chanukah. Is taka the name of the Kriyas HaTorah today. We read this portion. But the word Zois Chanukah means also this is Chanukah. So the last day of Chanukah is the culmination and the ultimate. This is Chanukah. So we have to chaparein, make all the good hachlatas, and that the shechiyanu v'kimanu of Chanukah taka changed us. That the Chanukah Tavshin Pei, you have a different year, and we go on to take on the light of Chanukah. We tackle 8 candles. We're not going to be lighting a 9th, but we have to on our own carry forward a stronger strength, to be stronger in our ruchnias.
What about?
So we're starting on Amud Kuf Pei. Kuf Pei. So we started learning about Pesukei deZimra from Baruch Shama to Yishtabach, the Dinim. We mentioned there's a machlokes whether middle of Baruch Shamar one is allowed to interrupt and answer Amen. Meaning after one started the bracha in Baruch Shamar, not the very beginning, but from Baruch Atah Hashem, in the middle of Baruch Shamar, you hear the Chazan saying a bracha or finishing Baruch Shama or saying a Kaddish, whether you can answer Amen or not. There's a machlekes about it.
The English editor says no, the English says yes.
I think the ones that I saw later were the correct.
The correct.
I don't know, maybe I wasn't looking correctly. But. So halacha l'maisa is that we don't interrupt in middle of the bracha, except for the two amens. The amen of Hakel HaKadosh, At HaKadosh, Shemana Esrei, and the amen of Shemei Tefillah. Sif Dalad, page Kuf Pei. A little earlier.
Kuf Pei.
Kuf Pei Sif Dalad. Sarich v'hizar milahasik b'diber m'shiyaschol barasham at Seif Yud Ches. One needs to be careful from speaking once and starts Baruch Shamar till the ending of Shemana Esrei, Seif Yud Ches, the 18 brachas. Lefi shebaruch Shamar hi bracha shefnei Pesukei deZimra yishtabach bracha lachrein. From Baruch Shamar is the bracha we recite before starting the Pesukei deZimra, the Pesukim of praise for Hashem, and yishtabach is the bracha afterwards. So once we start, we can't talk. But also lahafse beinehem, we cannot interrupt in between them. Afilu l'tzorich mitzvah. Even for the purpose of a mitzvah. Just like it's also to interrupt in the middle of Kriya Shema and its brachas.
How come people are very lenient with that? If people talking and talking.
Don't get me started. What about people talking nearby and causing everybody not to be able to daven Pesukei deZimra?
Wow.
It's even worse. And it happens all the time.
Got
To
it.
Sassan's point,
Teach
it's
the halachas.
crazy.
Ovein yishtabach v'yotze oyer. What happens after you finish the bracha of yishtabach?
Shigamach.
So you finish Pesukei deZimra, but you haven't yet started the bracha yotze oyer. Gam kein in lahafsi. You should not interrupt even over there. V'hamafsik aveidehi v'yodei v'choizer olah me'erchem acham. Someone who disregards these halachas and is mafsik and talks in these times, it's considered an aveira, and it's enough for you to return from the war. We know that the Pesukim tell us that someone who is afraid, hayare, harach haleva, someone is afraid, and it's a machlekes of Chazal. What does it mean afraid? One of the opinions is that afraid means not afraid from the war. Even if you're afraid that you have sins, that if you're in war will help, won't allow you to come back safely. If you have sins, because you're someone who doesn't have, it's not a tzaddik, should not put themselves in a situation of war. Because since you're already in a time of sakana, and you also don't have the merits to withstand the schuyot, so it's not good for such people to be there. So therefore they have to come back. So what type of averis do you have to come back? So Chazal tell us, even the averis of talking in the middle of davening, in these parts of davening, not allowed to talk, is considered, it's considered from those that you would have to come back from the war. Pesukei deZimra nesaknu lahaste shivchei shalmokim baruch hu koden tefillah. Pesukei deZimra was enacted to say the praise of Hashem before you ask from Him, before you daven to Hashem. You need to praise Him. How can you interrupt the middle? You just praise Hashem and you have a little conversation, and then you go to Shema Esrei. However, if it's a tzorich mitzvah, you're allowed to talk in between the two brachas of Yishtabach, Pesukei deZimra. When you finish Pesukei deZimra, you said Yishtabach, and you haven't yet said Yotzei, you haven't yet started Birchas Kriya Shema, you're in between the brachas, you're allowed to talk over there with tzorich mitzvah. So middle of Pesukei deZimra, you can't talk even tzorich mitzvah. Over there you can talk with tzorich mitzvah. Just thinking an example of something of a tzorich mitzvah. Let's say someone needs to put on, he didn't have tefillin or talis.
Or is there
He might be able to put it on over there.
visit a restaurant?
Maybe it's a shayatzar. We have to see the halachis. Well, a tzorich mitzvah won't be allowed to interrupt and say something.
I left 3 shows to come here just because they whizzed through Pesukei deZimra. This is my 3rd attempt to get it right. and I didn't even read this, but it just always sounds to me like you're about to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're about to go into Shemon Esrei and everything else, you're going to go read it from the Torah, and you skip the whole preamble. The whole part where you're telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu you have appreciation, you just skipped it. You did it in 6.5 minutes.
Right?
Some places you come at 9:30, it's already over.
How is that even
Great question.
possible?
It's a wonderful question. I would question whether it's possible, except I missed it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I went slow and I did my thing. Anyway, not the sidebar.
Yeah. Now, Ubein Birchas Kriya Shema L'Tfila, between the brachas of Kriya Shema and Shemon Esrei, meaning Gal Yisrael and Shemon Esrei, also lahafsek afila tzarich mitzvah. Over there, even though you're in between brachas, you finished Gal Yisrael, which is the final bracha of Kriya Shema. You haven't yet started Shemon Esrei, so assuming you're in a similar spot to between Yishtabach and Yoitzer Oyer, where you're in between brachas, where you're allowed to be mafsek for tzarich mitzvah. However, here between Kriya Shema and Tefillah, you're not allowed to even tzarich mitzvah. Should tzarich listen to Tefillah because there's an inyan to dafke say geula right connected to davening. So you shouldn't interrupt it because then you're not being masmich geula gal Yisrael to Tefillah.
So kedusha, you should not interrupt for kedusha.
Kedusha is not pashut kedusha because the tzarich mitzvah means even something which is not part of davening, but kedusha.
Part of the shir, you could answer.
I don't recall if right after Gal Yisrael, if you're allowed to say Kaddish. It's a good question.
You mean you finish God is on for Shemon Esrei? You can answer nothing.
Yeah.
You can answer nothing.
What does it say in the Siddur?
To be quiet.
Doesn't say anything?
Nothing. You're not allowed to.
Okay, David, you're right.
Rabbi, why the rabbi, when they make the takana of the tefillah, they say from the beginning till the end, you're not allowed to talk. Why? If you give a person, here you can talk a little bit, here let's talk tefillah, here let's talk this, just tell him from the beginning, you're davening to Hashem for 2 hours, hour and a half, be quiet and daven to Hashem. Why? If I be the rabbi...
But it happened already that something happened and you need to know what to do. Tzarich mitzvah.
Okay.
You daven 10 people here exactly. When you have made this piece of deZimra, somebody went outside. You have to call him to please come inside. It's off mitzvah, otherwise you have no minyan. So
Okay, this I
you're
understand.
not allowed to talk. You can't. No.
Yeah, no one can talk. For talking, any stam reasons to talk.
אסור לדבר בשעת התפילה.
There's no connection. And no one's allowed to talk. However, the question is when
Tzarich mitzvah, what
something
you do?
comes up. Tzarich mitzvah, about amen. And we'll see in next sif, there's also certain times you're allowed to say Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. What happens if the person's going to get offended or he's the governor or someone,
Oh, the governor come to the shul
you know,
to see if they have security. Okay.
something, you have to know what the din is. Sif Hey. She'ilah Shalom. So Sif Hey we discuss about talking, giving Shalom to someone. Mibarach she'amar ad yishtabach dina k'moi b'Kriya Shema u'berchisel. From Baruch she'amar till yishtabach, the halach is like from Kriya Shema and its brachas. What's the halacha? Shebein ha-prakim, in between the prakim, meaning in between each capital of Tehillim, shoyel mepnei ha-kavod, u'meishe shalom b'chol adam. If you see someone who you're chayiv in his kavod, he's your Rebbe, or he's your father, you can ask Shalom Aleichem, say Shalom Aleichem to the person. Umeisha Shalom B'chol Adam. You can answer someone who comes to you, Shalom Aleichem. You could say Aleichem Shalom in middle of Pesukei deZimra, as long as you are not in middle of the parak. You are after Hallelujah, in between each parak. You're allowed to answer Aleichem Shalom.
People come and read the shul, they shake your hands. You don't shake hand back, they say Shabbos. Sometimes.
So here you have the halacha.
Yeah, but
Meishiv shalom v'chaladim. You're allowed to answer to everyone, greet them.
no, but it said you have to be in the middle, not in the middle or something.
You wait a second, hold his hand for 1
Okay,
second.
wait 1 second. Let me finish, and then I shake your hands.
Well, the question is covered hamakom or covered.
Abriot, who's better? Which more?
So you hold his hand for a second. You say no, and then you.
Teach him the halacha. Say.
Or be'emsa in the middle, when you're middle of the perek. Shoyel mipnei hayira u'meishiv ha'kamen. And when you're middle, it's more chamor. It's more stricter when you're middle of the actual perek. Then you're only allowed. We go up a level. You're allowed to ask only for people that you have yira from, fear from. U'meishiv ha'kamen. However, you're allowed to answer for covet for people that you're chayiv to have covet for, not that you have yira for them. You chayiv to have covet for that person. But you cannot answer to a regular person when you're middle of the parak. Now, what are in between the prakim, and what is the middle? The elu hein bein ha-prakim, bein baruch she'amar la'ascholas ha-mizmar. From after baruch she'amar to the beginning of the mizmar l'soida, ubein kol mizmar l'chaveri, between each capital, each chapter that we say in Pesukei deZimra. Ubein soif ha-mizmarim li'yishtabach. And at the ending of the mizmarim, before Yishtabach, we say V'haya Hashem Malcha Kol Yeh Hashem Echad Shema Echad before Yishtabach. It's considered the ending of a parak. Those are considered between prakim, in between, and they are a little bit of an easier status, lighter status. Psukim halamukotim she'inam mizmar shalom. What happens if there's a number of psukim together which are not? They are not all one capital, just a bunch of psukim put together. Yesh Bishaimer, some say Shekol Shnayim Mishloisha Psukim and Amarim Kan Kisedishim Ksuvim Kayim Dinin Kitzvah Shalom. If you have 2-3 psukim that are in the order of the psukim, so even though you're not saying the entire perek from the Nevi'im or Ksuvim, if you're interrupting between these psukim, Dinei Kemafse Be'am Mizmar. It says if you interrupt in the middle of a mizmar. Is like as if it's bein haprakim. K'gayim in dinas in these countries, haidu is not all from one place in the Torah. They're different. It's the haidu.
It's from 3 or 4 different.
A few different places. So mahaidu ad amen, v'hala Hashem, who parakech is all one parak. Ava pishein in mizmar shalom. B'divrei hayamim. Even though it's not a complete mizmar in the Sefer Divrei Hayamim, it's a part of a mizmar. It's not a complete mizmar. However, since these are all written in the order that they were taken from, so interrupting in the middle is considered like you're interrupting be'emsa haperek, and in between, and afterwards and before, it's considered bein haprakim. V'chein beis psukim tnu oiz noira lekim ad barach lekim im gamkin parakechat. These 2 psukim are also from one parak. Hayim im smuchon zelazabatil because they're next to each other until. So if you can't interrupt in between the 2, it's like in the middle of the parak. Ubetehillim v'chein beis psukim shel kel nekamis Hashem inase akel goyim ad al goyim. Is also 2 psukim that are next to each other. Chen gimel psukim hashenu chiksa ki boy yismach v'ki yichas are also 3 together. They're not a complete capital Tehillim, but they are 3 next to each other in the Torah. Geen gimel psuki Shem Hashem Mimizrach Uram. Geen beis psuki Baruch Hashem Lakim Baruch Shem. Geen Yivarech David. When you say by Yivarech David later on in Pesukei deZimra, Ad Hashem Tartecha is all from one place. All from Divrei Hayamim. Me'atahu Ad Maim Azim is another place in the Nehemiah. Ve'yoishat Seif Hashira is all from Parsha B'Shalach. Al Bein HaPsukim Shein Smuch L'zel Hazeh B'Tehillim Dinam Kebein HaPrakim. However, the Psukim which are not next to each other in the Torah, or from Tehillim, and we just read them one after another, talking in between them has a status of talking Bein HaPrakim, not Be'emsa.
I got a quick question here.
One more second. Abel Emsa HaPerek. Din pasuk, emsa pasuk, in middle of a pasuk. Dinik emsa pasuk shel kriyashma. Interrupting in middle of a pasuk, even if you're before Baruch She'amar started. If you're in middle of a pasuk, interrupting in the middle of a pasuk has a status of the middle of a pasuk of kriyashma. It's more severe. All these halachas about bein haprakim, be'emsa parak, is only when you're talking about saying Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, greeting someone. Which in Torah it's a very important thing to greet someone. It's important to greet, having Makabo called him Sefer Panim Yafis.
It's like Avram Avinu.
It's an important thing. So therefore we have different halachas,
Yes.
whether or not it's a regular person. You're never allowed to go out on your own and shoyel and say to someone how you're doing in middle, even bein haprakim. However, bein haprakim you can meishiv shalom l'chaladim. You can answer anyone. Someone says to you Shalom Aleichem, and you answer back Aleichem Shalom. You can answer him back. You don't carry on the conversation, but you could be cordial and respectful and answer back. That's when you're bein haprakim. And be'emsa haperek, you can only answer back if it's someone that you're chayiv and covered for that person, your father, or your rebbe, your rav. You answer back, and you can answer back.
Well, where are you human being? If you didn't see your friend for a few days, hi, how are you? You just came and he's in the middle of it. You forget.
It's a
most
mistake.
people forget. We're not.
You're talking to Hashem now, so you're not.
Well,
I make mistake also a lot of times. Everybody makes mistakes.
Do you want to know what's that?
Now I know more to watch. Shmulik, don't talk to me when I'm that.
This is all legabe shil shama le'inyan hafsik le'inias amen. When it comes to making a hefsik to answer amen, aim Pesukei deZimra brachesah doimin lekriyash merchesah. Pesukei deZimra and its brachis are not compared to kriyash and its brachis. Meaning, we just now made a comparison that all the dinim that apply to Birchas Kriyashma and Kriyashma when it comes to She'ilah Shalom apply to Baruch She'amar Tishtab Pesukei deZimra. It's the same status, Kriyashma and Pesukei deZimra. So the Alter Rebbe, that's only when it comes to She'ilah Shalom. When it comes to answering Amens, they have different status. They're not the same. And in this, now here we're going to learn the dinim of Pesukei deZimra when it comes to answering Amen. It's not the same as the middle of Kriyashma. Kriyashma is more Chomer. Oh, and by Pesukei deZimra, muter lanes amen akol habrachis. You're allowed to answer amen in all brachis. Yibarach Shammai Nishtabach afilu be'emsa hamizmer. Even your middle of the perek, you're allowed to answer amen. Ve'in tzarich loimer bein hamizmorim lebracha shefneim hashachrein. I don't need to tell you that between the mizmer and the bracha before and after, you're definitely allowed to answer amen. She'amin hu gam kin shevach. Amin is also a form of a praise of Hashem. Uke'ein zimra, eini chashav hefsek Pesukei deZimra. There are some that say afilu be'emsa habracha shefneim mutalanis amin. Even in the middle of Baruch She'amar, one's allowed to answer amin. Af al pi shehi pisachas b'baruch v'chisem is a baruch. Even though it begins with a baruch and ends with a baruch, how could I interrupt the middle? In lochush v'meshemafs and psicha lachsim b'niyas amin hayal bracha zein maskeret v'talmud. Since the bracha of Baruch She'amar is not mentioned in the Gemara, so therefore one is allowed to answer amin in middle. However, we mentioned earlier that this is not pashut, And other shittas hold that you're only allowed to answer in the middle of Baruch Shamar two amens of Akel HaKadosh and Mekri Shema Shemei Tefillah.
I have a question. I don't know if anyone can answer it. Are the goyim in church or mosque when they davening? They're for their are they talk
They don't talk.
like us?
They don't talk.
They don't. They respect more than us.
It depends on the context. On a major event, they don't talk. They come in quietly, they file in, they sit, they do their thing,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't dare talk.
So why we?
If they talk out loud or someone hears them, everybody looks at them like they're from another planet. Also, their services go on for a very long period of time until they reach. They have breaks, but generally they can go hours and they sit there. But the other thing to remember is they only go every once in a while. They'll daven 3 times a day.
You wanted to say something before.
I want to ask a question, and I think it was already answered. The question was pertaining to connection between the different concepts in Tehillim. If there are excerpts that are strung together as one tefillah, but obviously the original form, there was a lot of preamble, there was a lot of, it's poetry in the end of the day. It's Hillel, but it's poetry from David. There were events that caused these things to be written, the different kafitlach. So the question is, if those concepts have been streamed together as one set of ideas, right? You would imagine that all the ideas are more or less in the same, theme. But what if there's a change of themes? Or what if there's a long piece that's been excerpted and it switches ideas in the middle? Does that change anything? Or should it? And more importantly, I think you answered this already, when, obviously it's a subjective call at that point, when does, nature or other things that are tzarech guf override these things?
So we'll talk about the tzarech haguf. If someone needs to go to the bathroom, we don't say Ashiyatza in the middle of Pesukei deZimra.
Right, okay.
Question is, when do you say it? You hold off on saying it.
But if something comes up, something comes up. It's not
Right.
something you're supposed to
So go
suppress,
to the
right?
yeah, of course. You can't daven. So not allowed to daven if he needs to go to the bathroom.
Is the lochad before davening you have to try to go to the bathroom? It's
You don't have.
called ufnoki.
Oh, I didn't know.
You wake up in the morning, try to go to the bathroom before you go to daven.
No,
You
even
should
sometimes
have to
I come
go to the
out of
bathroom,
condition,
daven.
so before davening, I try to go. But sometimes
If
it
you
comes
have
up. That's what I'm asking.
If you have to, you have to.
Yeah, you have to go.
You gotta go.
That's the halacha also.
Okay.
Right?
So the idea of the different teams, it's irrelevant, right?
Well, he doesn't mention themes, but he mentions that if they all came from the same place in Torah, because the davening is excerpts from different
Right.
Tanakh.
You have the current
Most of them are most of it's built up from Tanakh.
Uh-huh.
So if they're a bunch coming from the same mizmar, and they're written in the tefillah, they're organized in the tefillah in the same order that they were organized there.
Uh-huh.
So interrupting in the middle of it is considered interrupting in the middle of mizmar. Even though I didn't say the entire mizmar, because there were a few psukim before and a few psukim later which should be cut out. But since this chunk was together
Zucked it all
as a
together.
bulk,
You
yeah,
have to stay
and
together.
even 2 psukim that are one after another, and then they say you should not interrupt in between those 2.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you covered this, but you're actually answering it in a way that I understand. So basically, if Chazal took it out and made it part of the davening sequence, you're not supposed to interrupt the ideas, even if they're coming from separate places, ideally.
Yeah, but there is a difference. There is a different level. We still treat those psukim that are not in the same order.
Mm-hmm. Different parak.
We treat them as beina plakim, which only changes status when it comes to she'ila shalom, answering, to responding or asking shoyel shalom or meishav shalom. Only then does it play a role whether something is considered these psukim.
But in all cases, acknowledging the person is okay.
You can acknowledge a person.
Not with words, but just to acknowledge them. It's all okay, right?
To acknowledge a person with even words is mutter. To respond back to a person who comes over. If a guy didn't know, he didn't realize you're middle davening, he came, shalom aleichem, how are you? And you know he's going to feel slighted if you don't respond. So you're allowed to say, even in the middle of even in the middle of a parak, you're allowed to say, "Oh, Leichem Shalom." You're allowed to make him feel that. Usually people don't do that. They see you from you, they know the halacha, they see you middle davin, they're not going to expect you to respond.
Right.
But if someone who doesn't know, or he's not from, or somebody wouldn't realize and wouldn't know, and would be slighted, then you're allowed to answer anyone during Bein HaPrakim. Sorry, Bein HaPrakim. But when you're middle of a parak, you have to wait. Only someone who you're chayiv and covered to you should answer.
Oh, okay. You covered that. Okay.
Now, the ending of Sif Hey, and Kuf Pei Aleph, Kuf Pei Aleph. V'mutzarech lahafsik be'emsa Pesukei deZimra. If someone needs to interrupt in middle of Pesukei deZimra, Toiv sheyemer Baruch Hashem la'olam ad yivarach David koidim sheyidamer. You start off with a Baruch She'amar, right? If you know you're going to interrupt, better to interrupt after Baruch Hashem la'olam. After the halukas, we say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen. Baruch Hashem etzion sheikh Yerushalayim halukah. Better to interrupt after those psukim. Why? Because those psukim are sort of like a siyum to Pesukei deZimra, because they're also like a bracha. So the real bracha is really yishtabach. But if you need to interrupt somewhere, better interrupt after this. So this is like you had the beginning bracha and a closing bracha. And when you come back, return back to davening, go back to Baruch Hashem and say that again. Baruch Hashem la'olam am v'amin. So then you're sort of like saying again a bracha at the beginning, and then continue until yishtabach. Sheyachzor l'makom shepasel yomer gamkin elo psukim. Lefi shehem k'may bracha. Just those 3-4 psukim. Baruch Hashem la'olam am v'amin. Those 2-3 psukim over there. Just those psukim. Once you say them, that's a better place if you need to make an interruption. When you come back, say them again. This way, you have like a bracha before the next psukim you're going to say, Vivarach David, and Vayosha, and Az Yashir, until Yishtabach, you have a bracha koidim afterwards. The Gabi B'chlal discussion about talking, there's no question about it, that because we, Klai Yisrael, feel hamish in our shuls, that brings more talking. So we don't relate to our shuls as like a cold place, and we our shul is a home, and we're there, we're learning, we're davening, we have a kiddush there, and our life is around the shul. So we spend a lot of time in shul. And we're constantly hanging around shul. And Ashrei Yeshivei Secha, whoever sits in the shul, all the better to learn and daven. So naturally, we become sort of like accustomed to feel hamish, from the word haim,
like
at home. Homey, hamish is from the word hamish, in Yiddish. You feel hamish, you feel homey, but obviously we have to chazar the halachis and remind ourselves that there are dinim and there are halachis, and especially not to disturb someone else. If someone does need to take care of something, to go outside and talk on the side, and not to have a loud conversation in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and
Read it loud. I got it today from the Rebbe about talking. I got it. Yeah. Read it loud.
He's mentioning something here, that a story that in the 1970s, there were a number of tragedies occurred in Crown Heights. Many residents wondered what lesson they could take to heart. The head of the Chaver Kaddish at that time asked the Rebbe what should be, how do you turn this on? What should be changed? The Rebbe told him that the issue that needed correcting was talking in shul during davening.
Sure.
We know also the ending
Isn't it
of...
amazing that I got it today?
It really is. Because nobody ever talks about that.
It's actually the last page of Tanya.
It's a joke.
The last page of Tanya mentions how the Alter Rebbe is very upset about talking in shul, and as well talks about how people are davening, the chazan is davening way too quick. The Rebbe says that even if for some reason someone needs to run and hurry, he shouldn't be the chazan. So you need to go, do what you have to do, because you're honest, you have to run, whatever you have to do. But don't make the whole minyan go quick, because you should feel, okay, I need to go, but doesn't mean if I'm going to miss something, I'm going to miss something. But don't force the minyan to go quick, and appoint the chazan that's not going to go too slow and not too quick.
Next time.
That's the last page of Tanya?
Last page of Tanya.
chapter 50,
Three.
53.
Actually, the last page of the printed Tanya, which has a number of other few
Right.
works together. The very last page of the whole entire Sefer, he actually in parentheses writes there. He uses to express his sadness about the situation. He used the words Gewalt, Gewalt in Yiddish.
Oide, oide.
Gewalt, Gewalt. What this has brought to us.
It's the only thing in
that we don't.
The next time I see it happening, I'm going to start a mutiny.
Well,
We're going to bump him off and take over.
Listen, and at the end of the day, we also have to do things that
No, I'm just kidding.
smart thing that a cheretzdik, and cannot embarrass someone but have him.
There is a huge
You know,
shul in Williamsburg. Somebody came with technology that when you walk into the shul, your phone doesn't work.
I love it.
oh.
Jam, we should jam all the
Yeah,
cell
well,
phones.
that somebody works for.
Should make the screens go blank.
Well,
too.
somebody
Not
that
just
works for
the cell phone signal. should
Well,
go.
Lamaisa, we have to still remember, we have to deal with things benchlichly and work with the Gabbai and the Rav just to create the atmosphere. Okay, Siv Zayin. Also, Loimer Pasuk Mi Malag Vodas Hashem. Acher Baruch Shamar Koidim Hoidu. Shenira Koimer Mi Shereit El Malag Vodas Hashem El Hashmiya Kol Tilas Yemer Hoidu Hashem Varei Zechiruf. It's also to say this pasuk, a pasuk in Tehillim, Mi Malag Vodas Hashem. Who can praise the mightiness of Hashem after Baruch Shamar before Haidu? Now remember, this is the Minik Ashkenaz, where Haidu is recited after Baruch Shamar.
Yeah, why?
So in
I
Sfard,
saw it only in this.
Sfard and Hasidim, Sfard and Hasidim don't do that.
Of course not.
They recite
That's doch fine.
Haidu before Baruch Shamar. However, the Minik Ashkenaz was to recite Haidu after Baruch Shamar. It was part of the Pesukei deZimra. And this was actually, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch was written like Minik Ashkenaz. It was written only this, in his Siddur he set things up the way Hasidim follow, but when he wrote a Shulchan Aruch, he wrote it for all of Klal Yisrael, so he followed the Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch, he didn't change. And so he writes that a person should not say the pasuk Mi Malag Vodas Hashem at the outset of Pesukei deZimra before you say Haidu, because it seems to be like you're saying, who can recite all the praise of Hashem should say Haidu Hashem, should say these psukim.
Say it before.
As this is all the praise of Hashem. You can't pray. You can't get all to all the praises. Siv Zayin Sarech lahafsik ma'at bein elilim and bein Hashem shemayim asa. A person needs to make a hefsik and a slight stop in between the words elilim bein Hashem shemayim asa.
It said in the Siddur.
The Siddur has like a little line in between or something. Should make like a little break. It's in the middle, beginning of Haidu. It should not seem like you're saying that Chas Hashem, Hashem is the Elilim. The Getchkes. Elilim is referring to the idols. V'gam bein ki l'chol yesh psik. There's also a psik, a stop. V'chein hachaf de gusha. Therefore, the chaf is l'chol, ki l'chol. Vein ha'amim la'lilim, vein shemayim ba'asa, so gam kein l'hafsik sas, she'tiv l'hamem, the mem should not be swallowed. V'chein b'chol mem she'v'soyif teva, v'teva shalachrea, maschel is ba'alef, v'ba'ayin so chazarakin. Every time you have a mem at the ending of a word, and the next word, ha'amim elilim. If you say it quickly, ha'amim elilim, the aleph gets, the mem gets swallowed up, it's not properly said. So you have to say it slowly. Let's do another sif. When one says an ashrei, open up your hands. And you satiate every living being. You should be mechaven the pirush hamilis hamaytu sasav. You make careful to think of the words that you're saying with your mouth. If you did not have kavanah, you should repeat it. The main reason why Chazal wanted to say this parak, this mizmar, this kapitel every day, is because of this praise in this pasuk. Hashem is mashkiach, watches over all his creations to give them their parnasa. Even though in general today, we don't repeat things that we don't have kavanah. If someone says part of Pesukim, and Pesukei deZimra, and he didn't have kavanah, we don't tell you, go say it again. Why? It's very shy the next time you're not going to either have kavanah. So we don't tell a person, anytime you don't have kavanah, repeat it. We don't say that directive today, because that might not happen the second time either. However, in this case, it's only one pasuk. You should go back, you should be chayzer, because one can easily have kavanah. So Pesach Chesedecha should be said again, thinking every word out when you say Pesach
Why does
Chesedecha.
God involve this Pesach Chesedecha?
Same reason. If you're doing that, you can't be not mechavan because you're doing a ma'isa. They do it in benching also.
Right?
Must be
Same
some
concept.
must be
More
more deep than
Kabbalistic.
that.
More
More
Kabbalistic.
Kabbalistic.
Again,
Otherwise,
Kabbalah
it says in the Siddur
reason.
or the Halacha.
Maybe to receive the hashpah, I don't know.
Exactly.
And
They
they
have to
close,
see the
we
reason.
close the eyes also.
Exactly.
We close the eyes, asking us.
It definitely has to do, obviously, with this issue also, that this is a special pasuk, that you want to have kavanah to have
We kiss the
parnassa,
tefillin,
proper parnassa.
and the head by the Pesach Chesedecha. We kiss the tefillin, the hand is.
It's true. That's right. It's true that a person's supposed to feel his tefillin during davening, not to forget you're wearing tefillin. So it's to feel for once in a while the shiyad and the sharesh. So it's interesting, the minig, in Chabad at least, the minig is that by Pesach Chesedecha, you feel the Pesach Chesedecha, the shiyad, has bircha chayrotz, and you feel the sharesh. So most probably it has to do also the same idea that since this pasuk is supposed to make sure you're supposed to have kavanah, so it's the proper pasuk that you should be feeling your tefillin. This way, you also will have make sure you're having kavanah at the same time. This probably is in order that you should do a ma'isa, which is ma'ir de kavanah, on this pasuk.
Somebody says, why they put a yom in the davening? At least one part in the davening, you should stop and thinking.
That's good.